Hi, Shelley from Spin Cushions here, Crochet Designs by Shelley Husband, and it's time for the final part of Granny Square Academy, Part 10, Finale Fiona. So in this one we're going to use most of the techniques and stitches that you've used along the way. A couple of things might be new in combination, but you've absolutely got the skills to do it all if you've been following along. I hope you've got your written pattern handy, because this one's got a few different things to take note of. All right, we're going to start by the same way we started a lot of our squares. Chain 1, all of our round 1 stitches are worked into there, and then we do chain 3 for our first stitch, then we do 1 in the first chain, treble UK, double US. Of course I'm going to fumble. Chain 2, 2 stitches, chain 2, 2 stitches. So we're going to end up with 4 lots of 2 stitches and 4 2 chain spaces. Well, after we join, we will. So I will do that and show you what we do after this. Okay, so 4 lots of 2 stitches, 3 2 chain spaces, and the last one we'll chain 1, join with a double crochet UK, single crochet US to the top of our third chain. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble seeing things today. All right. Okay, next round, chain 3 starting chain, takes the place of our first stitch. 2 3, stitch over the joining stitch, and then we're going to do back post stitches around the next 2 stitches. So up this way, down the other side, pull it sideways, and around the next stitch, up between the stitches, down the other side. Our corners, 2 stitches, chain 2, 2 stitches. We've done all of that before, so I will continue on and then show you what happens in the next round. Okay, I've been all the way around. I've done my back post stitches. I just need to do 2 in the same place as our first. 1, 2, chain 1, join with a stitch to the top of that third chain. Okay, the next round is all our smaller stitch, so it's double crochet UK terms, single crochet US. First one is over the joining stitch. Then we're going to chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and the middle 2 stitches, which are our back post ones, we're just going to do a stitch in the back loop only of those 2. So skip those 2, and our smallest stitch in the next 2, chain 2, then our corner, which is a stitch, chain 2, and a stitch. Easy peasy. So I will do that all the way around and show you the next bit. Okay, I've done all of my stitches and chain spaces. Just need to do a stitch in the same place as our first one. Chain 1, join with a stitch to our first stitch. Remember, pop a scrap of yarn in if you have trouble seeing what's happening in this corner space. Okay, next round, chain 3, stitch over our joining stitch. Then we're going to do a stitch in the next stitch, chain 1, and we're going to do a 3 stitch cluster in the 3 chain space, in the 2 chain space, sorry. So we start 1, stop there, start another one, stop there, start a third one, stop there, through all of them. Then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to stitch these 2 together, so the different type of cluster. So we start a stitch here, stop there, start a stitch in the next one, stop there, yarn over through all. Chain 1 and another 3 stitch cluster in the 2 chain space. Start 1, start 2, start 3, and finish it off. Chain 1, stitch in this stitch, and then 2 stitches, chain 2, 2 stitches in our 2 chain space. So that's it, cluster round. I will do that all the way around and show you the next part. All right, I've been all the way around with that. Now I just need to do 2 stitches in the same place as our first. 1, 2, chain 1, join with a stitch to our 3rd chain. Okay, next round is all our smallest stitch, but some of them are front post stitches. So double crochet UK term, single crochet US. The first one is over the joining stitch here, then 1 in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. Then there's 1 in the 1 chain space. Now the next one is a front post stitch. So around this cluster, we poke our hook under, pull loop sideways. So there you go, front post stitch. Now in the 1 chain space, then another front post stitch around this cluster. So under, pull a loop sideways, then 1 in the 1 chain space, then around the next cluster another front post, then the 1 chain space. We should have 3 stitches left to do 1 in each of those, and our corner is 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitch. You can do that. So I will do that all the way around and then show you the next round. Okay, I've been all the way around, done my front posts around all my clusters. Just need to do a stitch in the same one as our first. Chain 1, join with a stitch to our first stitch. Remember all those tips about using stitch markers if you need to. Okay, the next round is really super duper easy. Chain 3 starting chain, and then it's just a stitch in every stitch. The corners are 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitch. That's our first one. I'm sure you can handle that. So I'll do that all the way around and show you the next round, the second last one. Okay, my solid round almost done. I just need to do a stitch in the same place as my first one. Chain 1, join with a stitch to the top of the 3rd chain. All right, now we're going to do some spike stitches. We start with a stitch over the joining stitch, double crochet UK, single crochet US. Then we do 1 in the next stitch, and then we're going to alternate between spike stitches in the stitches. So we've just worked into this one, so we're doing a spike one at the base of the next one. Remember, pulling up a long loop. Then we do 1 in the next stitch, then a spike at the base of the next one. We do that all the way along, and you should end up by doing just a normal stitch in the last stitch of the side before doing your corners of 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitch. So there we go. 1 in here, the base of the next one, all the way along. I'm sure you can do that. I will do that all the way around and show you the very last round. Okay, all the way around with my spikes. I've done my stitch in my last stitch. Now I just need to do 1 in the same place as the first. Chain 1, join with a stitch to that first stitch. Now it's our very last round, which is a round of just our smaller stitches. So we start with 1 over the joining stitch, and then 1 in every stitch. And the corner is again 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitches, 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitch. And it's a double crochet UK term, single crochet US. So I'll do that all the way around and show you the finished block. All right, been all the way around. I've just got 1 more stitch to do in the same place that our first stitch was. And then chain 2, join with a slip stitch to our first stitch. I've gone through the wrong bit. There we go. And there you have it, Finale Fiona. The last part of Granny Square Academy is done. If you followed along and you've done all the reading and understood everything, you should be all good to go to tackle pretty much any pattern that you come across. Sure, there'll be things you may not have come across before, but I think you will have the confidence now to give it a try. You can know where to go to get help. And yeah, enjoy your crocheting adventures. Thank you so much for joining in with me on Granny Square Academy. and I look forward to seeing what you've made. I'd love to see you share in my Facebook group or on Instagram, tagging with Granny Square Academy, anywhere you like. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.